god, hello chat. Did I remember to get water? I didn't. I am literally a failure. I can't believe I did this to myself. And it would be so unprofessional for me to get up right now and go get water. That's the worst part. Hello, Trip. What is up? Here to talk about the funniest chapter in the world. Artorias Arts, what's up? Nice to see you again. I always do these so short notice. Maybe I should, like, actually plan them. It pretty much just depends on what day of the week do I get out of work at a decent time. And today was kind of one of those days. It wasn't exactly a decent time, but it was good enough. What do you guys think? Was this chapter a banger? Was I too hard on it? Was I too cruel in my review? Everyone's saying this one's peak. I feel like I'm the only one. I've seen a couple people agree with me, but I feel like I am one of the few saying this one wasn't exactly my favorite. I mean, I can never be too hard on a Vinland chapter. You know? I'm a fake fan. You're so correct. You're absolutely correct. I am the fakest fan. Semi-banger. That's exactly how I feel. It's a semi-banger. Delete the channel and all my brilliant reviews that are gonna age so nicely. How could I delete those? I need to have proof on the internet that I was ahead of the game before the story ends. If no one can go back to like the 192, 193 review to see what I was saying about Thousand Year Voyage, if people can't do that, then I failed, because I've been seeing where this is going. But I was still figuring it out there. It wasn't until I did the ending video, How Vinland Will End, that I started to actually change my perspective. Not change my perspective, what is it? Really solidify the idea, I guess. I have to start beef. We gotta be like the well, what's a common feud? Planet Test. Oh my god, you're right. I can't wait for Vinland to end just for him to write a sequel to Planet Test. That would be the greatest thing in the whole world. I hope the story actually ends with confirmation that Planetes is in the same universe. I mean, if Planetes is... it doesn't work. It doesn't work because Vinland only works if it's in our universe, and Planetes... What year was Now I gotta check. Planetes. What year did it take place in? Okay, alright. It's 2075. Maybe we'll have some weird changes in technology to make Planetes make sense. And then, we could say that, they're in the same universe and it's peak. I think I explained myself. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad I got the message across that nobody has been like jumping down my throat over the over the complaints. Most people have been pretty understanding for the most part of what I'm trying to say. I really liked the idea I brought up though that his this is kind of his answer to Canute's question from chapter 202. I was super happy with that. The I mean the I'll leave Vinland is kind of the answer, but this is like the full answer of how would he deal with disease. And the idea that he'd just simply leave and travel the whole world until he finds a cure, that's in character. That makes sense. Did you like the chapter? It's like I did like it. I just think the recently we've been getting chapters that are so good that this chapter looks worse in comparison. You know, I feel like everything since chapter, like, let's see. I think it's been non-stop, like, 10 out of 10 bangers, literally since this chapter, actually, since 206. Okay, no, hold on. Obviously, we gotta include 205, because that has this. How could we not? Alright, what was 204? I mean, I didn't dislike any of this. Okay, this is good too. Okay. It's been nonstop 10 out of 10. Literally since we... Yeah, okay. This one I'd say, like, 9. This one was a 9. It's been 10s nonstop since this one. Until, in my opinion, 216. This is the only one I feel like that has had any kind of step down since we got to like this little winter arc. And it's really not a big step down. Not at all. Thorkel fire scene. True, 210. Yep, 210 is so good. Oh my god. I think there were chapters where things jumped over stuff I wanted to see. What kind of stuff in that timeline? I'm curious, because the only one I could really think of is that we jumped from 209 to 210 with not being able to see kind of like the follow-up of Gauki attacking the village. But what else did we really skip? Besides, you do think it was a miss. Yeah, I absolutely do think Hild, not showing the meeting between Hild and Misek is a miss. Because this decision Hild made to go assassinate him is... I get it. In hindsight, I get what Yukimura was going for. He wanted to have Hild kind of be really aggressive and be kind of really, I don't know, doomer about the situation. He wanted Hild to... He wanted to get readers into the same mindset as Hild, where we're expecting violence to culminate, and then Thorfinn comes and says, well, we'll just leave, and that completely changes the feeling of the scene. And that only works if, like, using Hild, our expectations for Hild. So, I don't hate that she didn't end up killing anyone. What I do dislike so far is that it hasn't mattered as much as it should. But there's still time for Hild to make decisions. I just don't want her to kind of fade away. Because right now, it's almost like her and Einar have swapped places, and now she's kind of like the Thorfinn, you know, cheerleader. And I think she should be more than that. Okay, how many chapters do I think are left? Okay, alright. So, we have had 8 chapters in volume 28. We have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in volume 27, but one of them is like a super short one. This one's literally only 8 pages. With the chapter lengths being pretty consistent, with volume between 28 and 29, I think we have one more chapter to end this volume, volume 29, and then we'll have 8 to 10 more chapters after that. So Um, that's kind of my expectations. I think we only have one more volume after volume 29. So, well, we're looking like late next year probably to end the story. But I can't see this one ending in enough time to only have volume 29, and I think with the pacing we're going at, we're not going to have two more volumes after this. We might have a much longer than usual volume 30, if anything. But I think 30 is the last one. So my ballpark is probably like 10 to 12 chapters left. I remember the fight breaking out between Ivar and Vargar. Yeah, that's a good one too. That is a good one too. Kind of in the chaos of, um, like I get why the story flows that way. It's not something I even thought about until until I saw people talking about it. But I get it's supposed to flow back to the Gitpi, and then start like the whole winter arc of going to try to resolve the well, figure out how the Gippi tribe is doing. I think it made sense, but it's stuff I would have liked to see, exactly. That was 203. Yes. I think the initial shock of Hild seeing the shaman would have been a good moment. Yes. Yes, exactly. I wanted her to have to think about it, at the very least, that she was going to kill this guy, and now he's here to help Thorfinn. It's too interesting to see how Hild would have acted in that situation. But she may have just been kind of silent. But she seemed very comfortable when we saw her in this chapter, so I don't know. Thinking about it, Polamuk found Hild and Thorfinn, told Hild he'd get the shaman. True, yeah, it's not like she's going to be surprised. Maybe she wouldn't have expected him to come, though, that's for sure. I know that conversation between Polamuk and Hild over the language. Yes, that's exactly the kind of stuff I would have liked to see more. Now that translation kind of is being carried by Nisquaji and Bug Eyes, we don't really have the complicated, messy communication that I was hoping for. But if something happens to Bug Eyes, for example, I think that's going to be part of how we things start to get worse. Communication is going to just keep getting harder. But yeah, I think he wanted us to build the tension. He really wanted the surprise of... Well, Yukimura wanted to retain the suspense of what's Polamuk going to do, because this chapter proves, too, that Yukimura was thinking the same thing I was thinking here, where Polamuk is blaming himself, and we're questioning what is he going to do because of this. So to retain that in order to have this moment, this chapter, where he explains that he felt those emotions but overcame them, that's what it seems like he wanted to retain, and that's why he kind of skipped around a bit. Winter is always when something goes wrong. True, yeah, we have okay, well, obviously Askeladd's band betrays him during the winter, and the whole end of the prologues during the winter. But then we have in Farm Arc, I think when the slave, not the slaves, the retainers pull out all the weeds from from Thorfinn and Einar's farm. Not the weeds. They pull out all they pull out the wheat from the roots. I think that was around approaching winter. I know it was cold. What's going to happen with Thorfinn and Einar? A lot of people are like talking like they're like against each other right now, and they're really not. Einar, to some extent, probably thinks he was probably thinks he's just doing what Thorfinn's not willing to do for both of their sakes. You know, he's obviously angry with Thorfinn for putting him and the rest of the Norse at risk of losing their home. But I don't think they will be able to cleanly reconcile before the story ends. But I don't think it's gonna be like they'll end up fighting each other. That would be silly. to make us think, where's Thorfinn, what is happening? Yeah, exactly. The tension is intentional, keeping us kind of out of the loop a bit with what's happening. So when we jump back and forth, you know, we're really eager to see what ended up happening there. Kiko Ano, this is not my favorite too. Yeah, it's just, exactly, it's not a bad chapter. I could probably argue for why, like, pretty much any chapter in this volume so far was my favorite of the volume, except this one. Even this one, though. Like, this opening scene is incredible. And I like the conversation for the most part, and really until the end. But even this, I'm kind of coming to accept it a bit more. I don't know. Hild attacking Thorfinn and the Hunted. True, good point. I was trying to think of one for Eastern Expedition, but I couldn't. IMO, I think I really like this chapter because of Polemuk. Yes, Polemuk was probably the best part of the chapter, aside from the like opening few pages with the 1,000-Year Voyage stuff. I think Polemuk was the best part of this chapter. The opening scene, yep, there you go. I should probably read your message before I start talking. Yeah, exactly. When I was reading it, there was no sense of me being disappointed because, like, I was so emotionally primed for it by the opening of the chapter that I didn't really think about problems until after. Do you think Thorfinn saying, "I have no enemies," gets a little bit repetitive? So here's the thing. This is exactly what I said in the review. It feels repetitive to me, but he has literally only said it one other time in the story, during the farm arc, more than 100 chapters ago. So him saying it here is not like a repetition that's like, it's not like a constant repetition for the story. It is a constant repetition if you are someone like me, and I'm pretty sure anyone in this chat, who really likes to read discussion about Vinland Saga. No enemies get said so often, and people misunderstand it so often, and they water it down, the meaning of it. And because of that, like, it doesn't hold the same kind of wonder for me. Absolutely. But I don't think it's the fault of the story, really. If I was reading this all in one shot, well, reading it kind of on my own time, I guess, without checking what people were saying. If I read the no enemies panel, and then, like, a couple months later I catch up and I read this panel, and I haven't seen people talk about the story at all, I think I'd be really hyped by this. And there's a lot of people responding that way right now, I think for the same reason. We have a lot of new people coming in from the anime recently, and they, like, a lot of people being brought into the series because this line was said, and because it became a meme. You know, so seeing it said is exciting, you know? The talk was mostly expected from me. See, I totally expected this talk, and I expected this end result, I guess. It's the way that the no enemies line was given as much weight as it was that I was a bit put off. Because what I would have liked more, honestly, if Thorfinn was just adamant and sincere, and then rather than one specific line being like the sudden from Mr. Piquet, what I would have liked is if he kind of came to this over time in a bit more of a natural way, rather than, obviously he did come to it over time. This was kind of like the nail in the coffin, but it's given more weight than that, and that's what's a bit off-putting about it, because I just don't like it seeming as though the story is trying to say this magical phrase is going to get you out of people being upset with you. You know, this saying "I have no enemies" is going to make people go, "Wow, you're really wise." Because now, like, everyone says it, even when they're not acting like they have no enemies, you know, it's... That's my take. My hot take. You feel like Yukimura added it again because he only recently learned how popular it is? I don't think so. I think it was always known that that was a very, like, before the anime even happened, that line was like the line. Like before season 2 anime, that line was the line. You know, there's a reason that it continued to grow in popularity, because it is just simply that impactful of a moment that was, like, you know, put in place from the very beginning of the story. I don't think this is because of, you know, Yukimura kind of playing off of popularity. But it's possible it played a role. I don't know. I am not that big of a fan of Polmuk, how he views things, so simple. Like, Thorfinn is not a bad guy. He was able to forgive so easy, unlike Thorfinn and Hild. Well, here's the thing with Polmuk. He wasn't... It's like, if somebody you loved and someone you trusted accidentally, like, you know, like... Well, obviously, people are dying, right? But Polmuk is not the kind of person who is, like, really invested in the spirituality stuff. He's thinking very logically. Thorfinn and Hild had to forgive people that murdered someone they care about. Thorfinn and Hild are part of a group that brought disease, and he knows it's not like it's not a big leap of logic to think it was unintentional. They may think of it as a curse, but they know, like, it's not like they haven't seen disease before. You know, disease isn't a foreign concept to them. And he trusts that these are not people who would have done that intentionally. You know, Hild didn't know Thorfinn when he killed her dad. Thorfinn didn't know Askeladd when he killed Thor's. You know, even if Polmuk lost family, he understands the... because, like, Chief Gitpi, for example, that essentially is family to Polmuk, you know? It's not like, if it was, like, his own father or something, it'd be different. You know, that is a hard hit to him. But he is thinking reasonably that it's not fair to put the blame on these people who have been clearly very kind to him for, well, I think more than a year they've been in Vinland by now. Almost 2 years they've been in Vinland, I think. So he's not just going to turn against them simply because of this disease. It's a problem that they're in it together. They're not in it separately. He's also a Chad. Very true. First time in one of these. Keep it up. Love your analyses. Thank you. Thank you, CJ. Alright, take it easy, Mr. Bacon. If we will be talking this weekend, I will see you then. I still think, though, with the Polmuk stuff, it's important that this is being brought up, not only to show his character in how he is reasonable and truly, you know, wants the best for everyone, and he's not... Because, okay, my biggest concern when we had the idea of conflict starting, and then we had the vision from Misekpekwe, I was very concerned that this vision will just automatically turn people against the Nords for no reason. Polmuk, the entire purpose of Polmuk's character, in that, I guess his position on the native side of the cast, is that he is the complete opposite of Misekpekwe. He is looking at their relationship with the Norse strictly in terms of what he can see, what he is witnessing and feeling, the benefits he has seen from working with the Norse, and he's not going to give in to suspicions and superstitions about them when what he sees in front of his eyes contradicts that. That's what is so great about Polmuk. That's what made him so great in chapter possibly 193. Oh no, it's. Wait, I think it is. Yes, this one. He says, "What I did see with." Okay, here we go. Here we go. We've heard it many times already. We know it by heart. The invisible arrow, right? The technique that tears the earth apart. The storm of doom. All because you saw the future through the secret arts of the spirits. You saw something so amazing, it turned your hair white. I don't doubt that, okay? You're a great seer, I know that. But we didn't see it, so we don't really get it. What I did see with my own eyes were fields of wheat sown by the Norsemen. Mesepekwe, did you know that bread is made from wheat? Like this, knead it into powder and bake it. I was allowed to bake some bread too. Those wheat fields were created by destroying the forest. I know, what's wrong with that? And he goes on, and he says, you never know unless you try. I'm learning to grow wheat from Thorfinn and his friends. He is completely dissuading any concern from me, at least he did when I read this chapter, that the native people were simply just going to turn against Thorfinn for no reason. And Pook continues to maintain that character going into this chapter as well. But he still has emotions. It's not like he is untouched, right? Because you have like a chapter, what was it, 196? 197. You have like chapter 197 after Ivar cuts off Misek's hand, and you look at Pook here. He's hurt, you know? Today, Villeneuve were injured by us Norsemen. Clearly, he has feelings. He's hurt. He feels unsafe. Here, it's not that he's simply unaffected by these things. And then you have chapter 203 doing the same thing, where right at the end he is clearly in despair and has a feeling of desperation because of the damage that's been done to his tribe. But he pulls through that. And all this is because he is still able to see that these people in front of him are not trying to hurt him. So the point I'm getting at is what happens when violence actually ends up reaching him and his tribe, and Norsemen are actually trying to attack people he cares about. In the face of that, I don't think he will be able to just resolve through his feelings anymore, because what he's seeing with his own eyes will be different from what he was seeing before. And that's the whole purpose of Pook. He is a character who you can rely on to only respond to what he's seeing, not what he worries will happen. And if he's seeing people coming to kill him, coming to kill someone he cares about, then he will probably respond accordingly. So I think he is literally the Einar of this side, of the new side. So I'm very excited to see him have a similar moment to what Einar got. I hope we get one more chapter of this convo, part 2. Yeah, I would like that. Because one of the things I said as well is that I was hoping for more of a stronger emotional response to the weight of what he's done. But this is much more subdued. And in the review, I explained a bit why I don't hate the idea of making it subdued, because it does show the tragedy that he could have come to this conclusion at any point if he just talked to someone. It's a very simple conclusion to realize he was mistaken. All he had to do was talk to Thorfinn. But he didn't. So the simplicity of this moment adds to the tragedy. But I do want a stronger outburst of emotion, especially when he sees how bad the war is going to get. So a part 2 would be great. Some kind of follow-up on this conclusion he's come to. Nuke panel gave me chills. Dude, same. When I first saw that panel, I actually saw it before I got to read the chapter. Someone posted it on Twitter after the chapter dropped, and I didn't realize the chapter had dropped, and I saw it. And I could not believe that was from Vinland. It is incredible. I'm curious to see what'll happen with Gauki and the sword. I thought before Thorfinn were to die, it'd be from arrows, but he'll sacrifice himself to take a hit from the sword. I don't think Thorfinn's gonna die. I'm still super confident he's gonna ride this one out till the very end, and he's going to lose a lot in that process, but I don't think he'll lose his life. Because I think there's a lot more to do thematically with him having to survive and live on rather than dying here. I think there's something more interesting about having him face the fact that he has not been able to do what he set out to do. I also don't even think Thorfinn's going to be in fighting condition soon. Obviously, this chapter talked a bit about how he's recovering much faster than anyone expects, but I don't think he's going to be fighting anymore in the manga, to be honest. I think we saw the last of him fighting. Unless this Vinland arc covers a bit more time than I think. Because I'm thinking, like, at most, we have a couple days of the war left before Thorfinn leaves Vinland. Or something. Some kind of conclusion. Either Thorfinn leaves and the rest of the Norse stay, and eventually they just lose on their own time after Thorfinn has left. Or they are completely wiped out, and only a few people manage to escape, including Thorfinn. It's, I think, one of the two. After this chapter, I think Thorfinn's survival is higher. Yeah, like, it's more likely. Yeah, I mean, he recovered from that, you know? I guess my perspective hadn't changed, because I've been confident that Thorfinn's going to survive the story for a while. So I wasn't really in the state of mind where I'm thinking he might die. So I didn't feel like a major difference after this chapter, besides the fact that he's woken up. But clearly, you know, at the very least, this chapter has given him a new goal that he needs to achieve. He needs to raise the cenotaph again, and then he needs to get out. I'm sure he will fight the Gauki. I don't know if he's gonna fight Gauki, to be honest. I think Gauki might end up against maybe Vargar, because Vargar is pretty crazy. If we're gonna get any like crazy duel, it's probably gonna be like Gauki versus Vargar. But I also think Gauki is going to be a menace to more than just the Norse. I think he's going to... I think he'll probably take an opportunity to take Muin down for his own benefit at some point. I think Gauki's just going to be a total chaos wild card that is going to make the war extremely messy whenever he chooses to kind of take a grab at power. He's definitely a very chaotic presence. Thorfinn will need to break it. That's a good point. It is Ivar's sword. I would really like to see Thorfinn break it, but I don't want to retread Baltic Sea War too much. At this point, too, we've seen the sword get used, like, for real. You know, we have seen it cut off 2 hands now. I don't think it's a fake sword. I know there was that interview with Yukimura where he talked about it, or it was an author's note, I think, where he talked about, like, he kind of raised the question of whether or not Ivar's sword is fake or not. I'm under the impression it's not fake, but I guess when we eventually see it clash with another iron weapon, we'll get a better sense for it, because right now, you know, it's only clearly sharp enough. At the very least, it's sharp enough to cut through arms. I cannot wait for Season 3. Me too. Me too. Yeah, I think Eastern Expedition is probably the most mixed reception of any of the arcs, especially now that the Vinland arc, people are kind of finally waking up to the fact that this is the best arc in the whole story, in my opinion. But I think season 3, when it's animated, I think it will be received pretty well. Um, I think it's just fun, and I think a lot of people watch anime kind of looking for fun. Like most like general audiences, I think season 3 has a lot more that the general anime audience would probably like. You know, a lot more action, female characters, um, some comedy. Even though like the yeah, the fart jokes are kind of lame. I never liked them. I have come to like a lot of the other comedy in the Eastern Expedition, so I think it'll be fun. Anime only will love Baltic Sea War. I really think they will. It's just a good time. Perfect blend of season 1 and 2. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it is like a sequel to the prologue in the way that I feel like Vinland arc is a sequel to the farm arc. It kind of continues a lot of ideas from the prologue and tries to close up loose ends like Floki, Thorkel, stuff like that. So you're just taking season 2 Thorfinn and now just placing him in the ridiculous circumstances of season 1, and it is a lot of fun. Season 3 will cover a lot of places more than any other arc. Prologue does cover quite a few places. But what, season 3? I mean, what, we have Iceland, Norway, Faroe Islands, and the, I think, Shetland Islands, and then we have, the Baltic Sea, which is basically, they are just in, like, Denmark, Jomsburg there. So, it definitely involves a lot more travel, and if they do a little glimpse at Miklagard as well, then maybe we'll see that. I don't think they'll do a full original arc or anything in Miklagard, but maybe a little glimpse. But that is quite a few locations, but the prologue also covers a lot. Like the prologue pretty much goes to all of those places except what? Norway? Did they go to Denmark in the prologue, or was it just in England the whole time? It may have just been in England the whole time. Well, maybe Askeladd's uncle's place, that might have been in Denmark. I don't remember. I'll have to check that. As much as I would like to see Constantinople and like see the characters walk those streets, I think that'd be really cool. And as much as I also would have liked to see more time for Thorfinn and Gudrid's relationship to develop, I think people way overestimate how important the journey to Miklagard actually would be. So because like the when I first read it and we had the 2-year time skip, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. You know, like, it was clearly, I was reading it as Miklagard was an excuse to get Thorfinn back into Europe again, so he could run into Thorkel and Floki and then have all that happen. So I did not see skipping over Constantinople, Miklagard, whatever you want to call it, as like a surprise or like a problem. I didn't realize how much people disliked that until I caught up and started reading people's thoughts on it. But I think, I know Yukimura talked about how he had intended to do some chapters there, but I don't think he cut an arc. I think people way overestimate how much was cut, and if anything was supposed to happen in that arc, it would have been repurposed into the Sailing West chapters or Vinland chapters, if anything. I really don't think Yukimura is the type of person to remove content from the story because he wouldn't be able to write it in the location he wanted to. Question is, will it cover book 12 too, like ending the Sail of Vinland? No, I don't think so. You could pretty cleanly map out the season to end with Thorfinn's wedding, which I think makes a lot of sense. I think that's exactly where they should end it. That lets us have, Sigurd's epilogue, which needs to happen, and then get to see Thorfinn one last time. I think the wedding makes for a good finale, too. Unlike Sigurd's epilogue, as much as I love Sigurd's epilogue, it's not a good finale to the season. So Thorfinn having the wedding, I think that's a perfect finale to end the season on. So then, sailing west starts season 4, and that's exactly how the arcs are split. Eastern Expedition ends with the wedding, and Vinland arc begins with Sailing West chapter 1. So I don't see why they wouldn't just animate the season to cover the way the story has already divided itself into 4. Eastern is already a long arc. Not sure exactly if they'll fit it in. See, the thing is, season 1, they added original content. Season 2, they also added original content to try to stretch it to 24 episodes. And season 2, honestly, they slowed things down for a lot of the content that they did adapt. They made it slower to try to drag things out to 24 episodes as cleanly as they could. I think they did the best job they could. But with season 3, there's more chapters, but they won't have to add any original content. They'll be able to continue the fast pace that the Baltic Sea War goes at and pretty cleanly hit 24 without anything really dragging. So I'm not really worried about them trying to fit 24, which I'm not really worried about 24 not being enough at all. I'm like a minute behind watching stream. Do you think the anime will struggle at all with pacing since... Okay, yeah, pretty much exactly what I was talking about. I think Baltic Sea War has a majority of the chapters, and the second the Jomsburg battle happens, those chapters are insanely fast. They are like single battles split up. So much of that you could cover like 4 Baltic Sea War chapters in a single episode. The pacing goes off the wall there. But I would really like to make sure that they leave enough time to let Feder Turn and Hunter and the Hunted breathe, because those chapters being given the time they deserve so they can have the proper impact is very important. But I don't think I'm worried about this team with pacing, though. As much as pacing did kind of take away from season 2 in some places, I think they're overall doing a good job with it. Because there's just a very strong sense of direction, like episode direction. And overall direction, I guess, from the anime team. So as long as they're planning, I think they can make it all work. Season 4 cold opening, starting with Thorfinn's dream climate. Yup, exactly. It would be peak. I don't think they can cut anything. There's literally nothing to cut. I mean, like, yeah, no, there's nothing to cut. They didn't cut anything from season 2 except a couple lines of dialogue that I would have liked to see. Like, the only thing that I hate that they cut from season 2 was when Thorfinn says that he wants to build a grave for his victims. The fact that that does end up happening in Vinland, and now the anime canon kind of doesn't have that promise initially, that kind of sucks. I would have thought that they would have paid attention to that detail. But other than that, they haven't really cut anything besides minor censorship as well. But that's only like not showing too much nudity or depicting sexual assault on screen. Rather, they insinuate it, but they don't depict it on screen, which I don't mind. I really don't care about censorship like that. Season 1 was 3.5 books, but the anime added stuff. Season 2 was 3.5. It was fewer chapters, though. Season 2 covers like 40-something chapters, and then Season 1 covers 50-something, 54, I believe. So Season 2 content is slightly shorter, but I think they added less original content. But yeah, they're able to pace it a little bit slower in a way that is kind of natural. That is true. Season 3 is 4.5. Yeah, so they won't need to add any. They don't need to have an entirely original episode like they've done for the prologue and season 2. And a lot of those chapters are just Baltic Sea War chaos that can be condensed super easily. Hild chapters need to not be rushed. Yes. Yeah, a lot of people hated her until she forgave Thorfinn. I never hated her. I really liked her from the moment she was introduced, but I was a little... I remember every chapter since I caught up. I caught up around the start of Sailing West, and every time Hild would still, like, say something to Thorfinn about killing him, I remember reading people's comments on the review threads on Reddit, and people saying, like, Hild, you need to develop. This is so annoying. And I kind of agreed. But if you ever doubted that that Hild was kind of not done well from like after her introduction, definitely go watch Jarky Bacon's video defending Hild. That video is very, very good and completely changed my mind about how she was written during Baltic Sea War. Let me go get that. I'm gonna link that in the chat. All right, yeah, watch this video. Definitely like put it in your open it in another tab or something and watch it later. It's a very good video. It is a bit outdated. This was before 191 even happened. So it's not like... But it's a good idea of where the fandom was, mindset-wise, with Hild back then. And why she was getting it overhated. I think Mr. Bacon here does a very good job defending the writing of Hild. A few fingers are gonna get cut. If Thorfinn loses some fingers, that would be crazy. Yeah, I think that the sword is going to really, like, maim a lot of people. Bias as an anime only when season 2 aired, but I liked its pacing. Yeah, so it's interesting. You can, like... The pacing... it really started to hit me when the Gardar stuff started happening. I felt like they really started to drag there. I think episode 2 to like pretty much episode 2 until Oath, like those are paced perfectly. People complain about the pacing of those episodes, but those are done very, very well, and the complaints there are just because of people not getting it, or, you know, it's just not their cup of tea. I think the actual pacing problems that stick out and make me think, okay, they're dragging, only start when we get to the Gardar stuff. If I was going to change something in the story, I would have had Hild forgive Thorfinn after Baltic. I think it happening in Vinland is necessary. I think it's really necessary because it lets us cap off Vinland at, like, the highest peak possible. The happiest possible moment, you know, before things start going downhill a 1,000-year voyage. I think saving it for Vinland is perfect because, and in my review for 191, I talked about this a lot. What makes Hild's forgiveness really so special is because it started to drag. It started to feel like she was taking too long. And, you know, that's just to show that, you know, when you're forgiven, it's not because... It's not like when you have proven yourself, that means you should be forgiven. Being forgiven is it's based on the person who was hurt, not the person who did the hurting. You can redeem yourself in all the ways possible, but if the person you hurt does not feel like you're worthy of it, then you're not worthy of it. And what allowed Hild to forgive Thorfinn ultimately was because Thorfinn was consistently somebody worth forgiving. He was consistently worthy of it. And by being so consistent about it, even when she really should have forgiven him by now, but he's still being consistent with her. That's what makes that moment work so well to me. Like, cause he's not getting frustrated with her for not forgiving him, and that's an important part of earning it. You need to accept that the person you want to forgive you is not going to be ready on your terms. That was my kind of perspective on it, and what I thought made 191 as impactful as it was. So I personally would not move it. Hunter x Hunter and Vinland Cooking. Hunter x Hunter is really, really good right now, but I do not have the brain capacity to keep up with it. I would love to review Hunter x Hunter every week and theorize about it the same way I do with Vinland, but like, it's like I cannot keep track of all the characters. With Hunter x Hunter, I read a chapter and I think this is really good, but I know I'm missing the bigger picture, and you know, the author is just thinking on a whole different plane of existence from me. I just can't. I know it's good and I am enjoying it, and I'm like watching videos to make sure I'm kind of getting a good picture of where the story is at, because some people are keeping track of it much better than I am. But man, there's just such a complicated web of characters in Hunter x Hunter that I just have to enjoy every chapter kind of as it is, without looking at the bigger picture, because I know it is so beyond me right now. Oh, mentioned season 3 Floki. What were you talking about? A few fingers. Oh yeah, like with oh, like how I said I don't want to repeat Baltic. True. Man, I disagree. Okay, yeah, you're agreeing kind of with my take on Hild. Guess you'll have to review Kagurabachi. Okay, Kagurabachi I can keep up with. I don't think it is interesting enough for me to review it. And that's not to say it's bad. If I were to review Kagurabachi for you guys, what would happen is I would make a video being like, this moment was really cool, this panel was really cool, I love Chihiro, and that would be the whole video. And I don't think I'm adding anything to the conversation when I talk about Kagurabachi. I'm just enjoying it. So I'd be open to it if Kagurabachi started going like crazy with thematic ideas and I felt like it's kind of setting things up. Because Vinland's always doing that. That's why I could talk about Vinland like this every month and never run out of stuff to say. Kagurabachi's really good. I love it. But I'm probably not going to say anything of interest besides kind of glazing the cool panels. But what I would talk about with Kagurabachi, because it is very good, is the kind of cinematography going on there. There's just so many moments that are set up in a really good way. Like every chapter of Kagurabachi has a set piece. It has like that one moment where you're like, that was so cool. It always has something. It like when I read One Piece or Chainsaw Man, every chapter, sometimes when you're really in the middle of the action, it's just a steady progression, and like each chapter is just continuing what the last chapter was doing without having its moment. Kagurabachi always has a moment every chapter, and it's done that since the start, and I can't believe how consistent it has been. So I could probably glaze that up a little bit, but that's more about, I guess, execution and you know, why paneling works as well as it does, rather than me having something to say about the story right now. Why was it a massive meme? Did people think it was bad? So here's the thing. It became a meme before it even started. The manga was announced. The synopsis was this guy has a sword and he wants revenge on the person who killed his dad. And everyone is saying this is the most generic premise ever. This is gonna be terrible. It's an industry plant. It's gonna get canceled. But the pre-developed hate of it became such a joke that so many people read chapter 1 to make fun of it, and then chapter 2, and then chapter 3, and people kept reading it. But it was actually good. It was actually good. I read chapter 1 as a joke day 1 because I wanted to be there because it was funny, but I just kept reading because it was good, and now people respect it. So it's fun. People thought it was going to be bad and were pleasantly surprised. And it's funny, I've never seen that happen with a manga before, where it looks so mediocre from the premise that people have to make fun of it. And have to read it. And it's not like it's anything crazy either. It's just a really good manga. Like, I feel like it's better than Jujutsu Kaisen, in my opinion. Like, that's probably a hot take, but I think it's better than JJK. I read through all of JJK, and it has good moments, but I think it has a much better... Kagurabachi has a much better sense for pacing. JJK probably has more stronger characters right now, but I still feel like Kagurabachi's kind of just getting started. But, you know, put Kagurabachi against, like, thematically powerful shonen manga, like Hunter x Hunter and One Piece, and then it's not hitting that same level yet. But One Piece started very simple, and Hunter x Hunter starts very simple. A lot of these shonen manga kind of start like that. They start very formulaic, and then they start hitting their stride and really doing unique ideas. So, I'm excited to see where it goes, essentially. I thought it was also because people found the MC cool. See, the thing is, Artorias, I think you fell for the meme. Because people were glazing him as their hero as a joke before the chapter came out. I think people actually think he's cool now. I think he's cool now. Because he just has, like, the coldest panels ever. But, yeah, that was kind of a joke before the manga started. Sorry for derailing. No, that's cool. I think this is a fun conversation. I think it's interesting how this time he sees more women and kids. Yeah, well, here's the thing. Before, he didn't really see people. Like, besides the English woman, he saw her for a moment in the farm arc before the Valhalla dream. But overall, he was always seeing these, like, these corpses to fit, like, that Valhalla nightmare. But now that it's not a nightmare, it's not tormenting him anymore, he can kind of see clearly and accept it in himself. That's why I think he views them differently now. I think it is partially an internal exception of, like, Thorfinn is completely unclouded in Vinland. I think that's what makes him a really great character now, where he is. He is completely unclouded by the past, and he's looking to the future. And I think the way he sees his victims now really reflects that. JJK plot is weakened because it's so fast and so many characters. Yeah, I think it just doesn't know how to pace itself, and it doesn't know how to keep people's attention without shock value. That's kind of my big issue with it. But the what arc was it? The first arc of season 2 before Shibuya. That stuff was actually really, really good. The stuff with Geto and Gojo, That was like the best stuff with JJK for me. So, um, when JJK tries to write the story instead of just kind of this relentless shock over and over again pacing, then he's clearly got some chops for writing. I just don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I will bully JJK relentlessly and will be sat for... See, I will watch season 3. I don't know if I'll be like... It's definitely not one of those shows where I need to watch it when the episode drops. Because I know what's going to happen, and honestly, the only reason I tried to be on top of reading chapters was so I wouldn't get spoiled, because people talk about spoilers nonstop for JJK. And I don't think there's much more to it besides the events that happen, you know? Experiencing that with a group of people, that's what made JJK special. You know, having the community reaction collectively to shocking twists. That was JJK's bread and butter. So, anime-only people will be able to experience that, hopefully, if they manage to avoid the relentless spoilers on Twitter. But maybe I'm just terminally online or something. Gojo versus Sakuna. Agora, outing, gotta be one of the best fights. Yeah, maybe. I remember not being too crazy about it because I already knew the outcome of the Gojo Sakuna fight. So I wasn't, like, as invested. I only caught up after that, that fight had ended. Because I started reading because I got spoiled. And I was like, alright, screw it. I just want to be caught up so I don't have to get spoiled anymore. And even when I was caught up, I was still getting spoiled because I didn't read spoilers. I read, I waited till scans at least. I think season 1 of JJK is when it had potential, and I wish it progressed in like a normal shonen. Yeah, I don't know. See, what makes normal shonen like a One Piece special to me is that it starts off normal and then it starts being really unique. So I wouldn't want JJK to stop being unique. And like that, they're just being a roller coaster of twists and turns. There's a place for that, but it feels like the overall writing suffered too much for it. There needed to be some give and take. Hidden inventory, that's what I was thinking of, thank you. Hidden inventory is hurt by Geto only later turning into the most generic racist villain of all time. JJK Zero. I actually really like JJK Zero too. I forgot I didn't mention that. I quite like that stuff. But yeah, getting replaced with I can't even remember brain guy's name anymore. I had never had any interest in that. It was just a twist for twist's sake. Maybe not a twist. It was just supposed to be crazy, I guess. It was supposed to be absurd. He wasn't really... Kenja, that was his name. Kenjoku. I just don't think he was much of a character at all, really. He was just kind of a thing. Bum-ass brain thing. True. Yeah, JJK is interesting, man. It's like, it is just the complete opposite of what Vinland Saga is. And Vinland Saga is the perfect representation of what I like and value in a story. I can still appreciate a more, higher action, less thematically dense story, like a Kagurabachi, for example. You know, I have pretty wide taste overall. But the kind of stuff that I'm giving like 10 out of 10s, this is perfect, this is exactly what I want in a story, is stuff that's like Vinland. Stuff that's really well thought out, drama, and thematically dense. That's my bread and butter. Sakamoto Days is also pretty cool. I've heard. I guess if I want another weekly manga to keep up with, maybe that's a good one. That is weekly, right? I'm pretty sure it is. Because weekly right now, I keep up with One Piece, um, Chainsaw Man, and Hunter x Hunter. I don't think I keep up with any other weeklies. For monthlies, I keep up with JoJo and Vinland, and Berserk whenever that happens. But that I wouldn't even call that monthly. Berserk is just every so often you get the event of a Berserk chapter. I hope even if Thorfinn's Vinland plan flops, we will still get Einar to snap out of it. I don't know. It's tough. I think Einar's character is completed by having him kind of be lost to the war in some way. I'd like to see him be able to leave, but the tragedy being set up for him, I feel like it calls for the fact that by starting to engage in violence, his fate is inevitable. Even if they win this war, another it's war is going to come back tenfold onto them, and that's going to keep happening until eventually they are gone. It's unfortunate, but the cycle is just going to continue, and he's become wrapped in it, and breaking out of that cycle is very, very difficult. Normal emotional people like Einar are the target of the entire message of the story. That's a good point. That's a good point. I think what could be really powerful for Einar is if they do manage to actually win against this all-new army, and Thorfinn gets to leave on his own, and Einar chooses to stay, and then we just see, like, rapid progression of time, repeated attacks on the Norse, until eventually they are just wiped out, worn down, and done. Either way, by the end of the story, there will be no Norse settlement in Vinland anymore. I think the idea of Einar ending up as a slave to the Olnu would be crazy. That would be a insane full circle moment of putting him in a very similar position to Gardar, especially because he's doing all this for Arneid. That would be so painful. I'm expecting tragic outcomes for quite a few characters here. But tragedy doesn't have to mean death. I think Thorfinn's ending will be tragic, but not death, for example, so I'd like to see Einar be able to get out of this, but I don't know. Him killing that guy last chapter is kind of the nail in the coffin for him. I think it's very clear thematically where he's going, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. Yukimura may just want me to feel that way. You know, he may just want people to feel very doomer so he can pull out some surprisingly hopeful stuff. But I think the ending will be more bittersweet and be about seeing the silver lining through the failure, rather than, you know, we clutch out a hopeful victory. You know, it's still going to be hopeful. There's no way this series ends in a way that is going to discourage people from trying to be like Thorfinn. It definitely wouldn't want him to be wrong. But by making Einar right, you do kind of take away from that. Obviously, he could be redeemed and still have been wrong by doing this. That's true. Redeemed isn't the right word. He's not... It's not like he has gone down and he needs to be redeemed. He's acting very naturally and reasonably. And just because he's not trying to act perfect like Thorfinn and so selfless like Thorfinn, that's not because he is a bad person. And it's very frustrating to me right now. There's a lot of people doing the same, doing that take, that Einar is wrong. He's wrong. He is wrong. Leaving is the right choice. but he's in an unfair, messy, and complicated situation, and people oversimplify it. I guess Einar would have to be the one to die since Hild is chill now. I don't think Hild's getting out, unfortunately. I think she's too smart for this world. That was the argument. Jarky Bacon made a video about how Hild is going to die. I'm going to put that in the chat too, actually. I have it right here. And kind of the crux of it is, unfortunately, that she is so smart that she kind of breaks history. Hild's going on to spread her knowledge as early in the timeline of history as she exists in is, like, totally gonna, like, break reality, you know? She could have made more arrows. She probably did. Yeah, she probably is currently the strongest character on the island. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't even think Gauki's really that strong. He's just very cunning and careful. But not like... He's not like... He's careful in that he doesn't take battles he knows he won't win. So he knows also how to set up battles that he will win. You know, so it's not like he's overly cautious. He just knows how to put himself in a favorable spot. And he's kind of tricky like that. What if instead of dying, that she just kind of leaves? I mean, that's possible. She doesn't necessarily have to die for the world to not explode under the weight of her intelligence existing too early in history. It's not a big deal, ultimately. I'd like for her to live. Honestly, if any character dies, I'm gonna sob. You know what I'm thinking of, by the way? I was thinking this recently. I think Bug Eyes is gonna die, and I don't even think it's going to be the Ilnu. I think he's gonna be killed by Norsemen. I'm picturing, like, if you ever watched Lord of the Flies. In Lord of the Flies, if you haven't seen it, it's this movie about... it's actually a book. I saw the movie, though. I didn't read the book. But these kids end up on an island, and... like, they end up stranded on this island together, and it's only the kids. And they just kind of slowly lose their humanity, and they end up, you know, killing one of the kids who was being reasonable, trying to keep things under control. And Bug Eyes is kind of that voice of reason right now. If I go to, I think it's 214. No, it's the one before. Bug Eyes is being that voice of reason here, and he already got punched over it. They already got angry with him and hit him because he didn't want to fight, because he was being a coward. I think the Norse bloodlust is going to continue to grow, and he's going to end up getting killed over it, or thrown out of the fort or something. He's going to get screwed over by his own people. That's what I'm anticipating for him, unfortunately. And that's going to suck. I've come to really love Bug Eyes. So cruel to a comic relief character. Exactly. That's what makes him such a good character now. He was comic relief for so long, and now that we're in this serious war, we see his perspective now, and it's upsetting. It's so sad. Sounds like Piggy. Yes, exactly. I was just saying that. I forgot the character's name, but yes, Piggy from Lord of the Flies. He was very comic reliefy, and he was very, he was trying to keep all the kids under control, and then they ended up killing him simply because they were pissing them off. He was pissing them off. That's exactly the kind of idea that I was thinking of. Cordelia needs to do something important, not just be there for the sake of being strong to defend. Yeah, I think Cordelia is still on track to being incredibly brutal. Cordelia's strength is, I mean, I've been saying this, it's a Chekhov's gun. Having her be convinced to actually be violent and be convinced that she has a responsibility to use her strength, That is kind of that kind of corruption is the core theme around her character. How she wants to live versus how her body demands, well, how society demands that she must live based on her build, her body. So I think the ultimate endpoint for her is that she will be doing absurd feats of strength, very Thorkel-esque, as war continues and things get more dire. And her moment of defending the house was kind of the start of that. But yeah, if any of the main cast dies, I'm gonna be sad. I was sad for Ivar, man. If I could be sad for Ivar, I'm gonna be very sad for Einar, Bug Eyes, Hild, any of them. I'm still bummed out. Still bummed out Gudrid and Carly are gone. I think that's a missed opportunity, unfortunately. I wanted more from them, so having them leave kind of sucks. The fact that it's been 6 days, I'm super curious if Bug Eyes has been laying low or actively trying to stop the fighting. I don't think he'd be actively trying to do it. I think he's progressively getting more dissuaded, but eventually it's going to get so bad that he can't help but say something, or they're going to demand something of him that he's not willing to do, and they're going to punish him for it. That's what I'm thinking. But I think right now he's probably laying more low. There is more to explore with Bug Eyes and Niska, though. I do want them to see each other before the story ends. I want them to be reunited. That's for sure. So Bug Eyes may not just be kind of killed before that point. He may put himself in danger for her. I think that's, if anything, that's kind of where his arc is going. He was always a cowardly, selfish person, so to have his genuine connection with her be what makes him put himself in harm's way for the first time, that makes complete sense for his arc. I'm glad Gudrid is 1000% safe. That's true. And yeah, we know historically that she should get out. So I was never expecting Gudrid to die. I just wanted her to have, a moment in the story. I wanted her to have I wanted her to be a character beyond her pregnancy. Unfortunately, I think Yukimura put her in the backseat because, and it makes sense. The reason he sent Gudrid and Carly away and let them have the opportunity to leave is because he cannot write excuses for them like in Baltic Sea War. The tone in Baltic allowed him to have characters like Gudrid right in the middle of a battle and be lucky enough to survive. He cannot give Gudrid and Carly the same excuses now because the tone does not call for that. So he's just getting them out of the way so he doesn't have to magically let them live when he wants them to live, you know? That's what I'm thinking. But Gudrid better be very important to the epilogue then, because if Thorfinn doesn't have a real significant conversation with her, I feel like that is a missed opportunity and kind of a false promise for Gudrid as a character. Because if she came all the way to Vinland just to mother his child and then not provide anything else of significance to the story and her own arc independent of him, that's going to be very, very disappointing because I really love Gudrid. Vargar might die. He's old and ready to die for Thorfinn and his people. Yeah, he may. That does kind of play into his introduction, right? He was looking for a purpose to die for, but I think he wants to live. He absolutely does want to live. Based on his, how he talked with Thorfinn. Thorfinn kind of changed his perspective and made him appreciate living a better life. So I think he would want to continue to fight in order to preserve the life that Thorfinn was able to share with him. But I don't think he's going to leave Vinland. If anything gets him, it's probably Gauki. Monkey's Paw of Bug Eyes living is the 1% chance that he gets confirmed with Niska, and we all have to wish he died after all. Yeah, the age gap thing bothers me. Bug Eyes is, I think, 28, like Thorfinn is, and Niska is 17 or 18 right now. So it's weird. It's weird. It's one of those things where I feel like you definitely have to separate the times. But there's also no reason for Yukimura to have made her a younger girl rather than, a 20-something. Even if it's just a low 20-something. There's kind of no reason to have her as a teen if she's going to end up in a relationship with Bug Eyes. As much as I regardless, though, I love the connection they have, and I think it's very good for both of their characters. So I'm not going to have a huge fit over it, to be honest. Either you or someone else said that Gudrid might come back to save Thorfinn. I was saying that. I was praying that. Yep, exactly. I think chapter 161, is it? No. I think chapter 167, this moment is a promise. This is a promise that Gudrid is going to be important, that Gudrid has something she needs to do in this arc. I think right now it's looking more like she is going to be a very important part of Thorfinn coming home and having to wrestle with the fact that he failed, quote unquote failed. I think she'll be a very important part of grounding him. Still, though, her whole thing was about being a sailor. I also suggested the possibility of her sailing back to help Thorfinn, but I don't think she'd leave the baby behind. I really don't think so. But I would really love for her to kind of follow up on that arc of wanting to be a sailor and to sail back on her own for Thorfinn's sake. If she's the one to come back and give Thorfinn an evacuation, that would be really good. I would really like that. If she kind of solo comes back for him after everything has truly gone to shit. And that is very much in line with what this page is saying to me. There's no way Yukimura would have given this moment this much focus if it wasn't going to matter. That's my take. So I'm very hopeful for Gudrid, even though she's gone right now. You know what would be crazy, though? It's been almost a week of war. The Norse might get so confident that they start bringing people back. If they manage to push the Ilnu away, eventually they're going to have stalled this out long enough where they're like, oh, we can't really leave them at the evacuation island anymore. We need to go back for them. So if this gets dragged out, that's probably the direction it's going. And that's the whole point of the fort too, is that the fort is just prolonging war rather than being a solution to war. That was kind of the real tragedy of the fort. And I think that's the whole purpose of Yukimura putting it in the story. Not only for the reasons that Hild is arguing, that it's kind of saying, we don't trust you, but it's also saying, it's also showing now that what is a fort if not the promise to continue fighting forever? That's what a fort is. If Thorfinn dies from too many injuries, it will be in the hands of Gudrid. He survives. His final talk will be with Gudrid. Yes. I don't know if he would die in Gudrid's arms. I think there's a tragedy. If he does die, it's definitely before he sees her, because that's definitely. I mean, look at chapter. What is it? 203, I believe. Might be 204. No, it's 203. Yeah, look at this chapter. Nope, it's 204. She says, I'll decide when Thorfinn comes back. Obviously, in any other story, if I wasn't so confident that Thorfinn was going to live, I'd take this as the biggest death flag ever. The tragedy that Thorfinn's never going to come back, and she'll have to name the kid herself. Historically, Thorfinn lives, so I'm not going to consider that. But Yukimura could shatter my heart if he wanted to, so who knows. But, so that makes me think, though, if he does die, it will be without ever getting back to Gudrid. If he doesn't die, and he survives, then yes, Gudrid will be part of his moving forward after. Gudrid is truly an amazing character. How many other characters could land a hit on Thorkel like she did? True. Yeah, I never thought she'd fight. I did have one theory that she would kind of okay, I'd have to go find it. I probably can't even really talk about it unless I went and found it. But basically, there was this story from the Norse sagas about a pregnant woman who was giving birth while native people were attacking, and she, like, the men were running away, and she came out, like, with the baby, like, literally coming out of her. She was standing, holding a weapon, saying, "I'll, like, come at me, I'll fight if you won't," and that, like, scared the warriors away. So I was low-key thinking she might do something crazy like that, but she's never going to be a fighter. That would be too much. That'd be too much suspending disbelief. The Ilnu are plotting to take out their boat anyway, so the second that happens, Sailor Gudrid. Yes, if the boats all get, like, destroyed or something, I don't think they have a boat at the evacuation island, though. I think Vargar and his group. Actually, I have to check, actually, because would they have brought back every ship, or would they have left one at the evacuation island in case no one ever comes back? That's a good question. All right, let's take a quick look. I don't know if that's something we can solve, but if they did leave one ship behind, then I 100% think Gudrid's sailing back. So we had how many boats? They say it last chapter. Oh my god. 4 ships. Hold on. Chat, hold on. 4 ships. I'm pretty sure when they came back, it was only 3. They left with 4 ships. Fuck. Damn it. They came back with 4 ships. Oh, damn it. Oh, I was so excited. If I saw 3 ships up here, I would have started freaking out because Gudrid was absolutely coming back. Oh, that's so upsetting. I got my hopes up so high. Ah, damn it. Hold on, let me read this. I do think they have completely stopped evacuation, though. I don't think they're gonna continue. I don't think they're gonna let Vargar leave. He was obviously really important for defending the fort. They're not gonna let him go again. Hild, Gudrid, and Ylva all landed hits on Thorfinn. The enemy will know have not considered his weakness to girls. True. Good point. I mean, if Thorfinn does die, Helga may give... Ah, fuck. No, you're totally right, because the kid ends up being named Snorri, and that's, I think, Thor's father's name. So Thorfinn's grandfather, because Thor's full name is Thor Snorrison. So Thorfinn's Thor's son. So he's going to be Snorri Thorfinn's son. But we do know that Thor's father was Snorri. So yeah, I always thought, would Thorfinn give that that name to his son? I don't know. But I could certainly see Helga doing it. That's a good point. Oh my god, my buddy is here. My buddy has joined the chat. My IRL buddy. They really could have left one. They don't need 4 ships, true. Obviously they want to be able to bring as many people and supplies as they can. They came back thinking, we're coming back to do another round of evacuation, we'll be right back. Now, it's been 6 days, I don't think they've gone back, because things have changed. I also assumed they took every ship, but I forgot that Evac Island was a thing, and that Gudrid went back to Iceland. Oh yeah, true. No, they only went to this island that's 2 days away. Well, no, it was a day away, so 2 days round trip. If she got... true. Yeah, if she did go to Iceland, she could have grabbed a boat or something. Gudrid solo sailing back would be amazing, though. That's a totally amazing climax for Gudrid's arc. That's a great way to celebrate her. So I'm gonna cope on that one till the very end. I'm gonna be on team Gudrid sails back until the moment the story ends. Well, the moment we see her again, at the very least. In the 4 days since Vargar came back, maybe 1 or 2 went back with women and children. Women, I really don't think they would let Vargar go again. Vargar was the only reason they survived the raid on the fort. And they lost a lot of people in that raid on the fort. They simply don't have the manpower to send more people back. I gotta bounce. I keep putting it off, but it's great talking to you. See ya. See ya, Ryan. Nice talking to you as always. Alright, so let's recap. What have we decided is going to happen this stream? Thorfinn's gonna live. Of course. Bug Eyes is going to be killed by Norsemen, and it's going to suck, and I'm gonna cry. Gudrid is going to sail back on her own, like a G. And Vargar is going to Hild and Vargar and Einar are gonna die for some reason. And Gauki is gonna kill Gauki's gonna duel Vargar. It's gonna go crazy. I think Misekvukwe has to live as well. I don't think he dies. I think he has to live what he's done. I think Niska gets to live too. Polmuk, I pray he gets to live. I'd like him to I'd like him to take over the Gippi tribe, but I think what's ultimately going to happen is that the Gippi tribe is not going to exist after this war. I think the war is just going to consume the Norse and the Gippi entirely. The Gippi are going to be dragged into it for no reason. It's still ambiguous whether Hild killed the one pursuing her. Yeah, it is ambiguous. I would have thought it would be brought up by now, if she had. But I mean, it was urgent to save Thorfinn's life. So I don't know. But yes, it is still ambiguous. And I could see her taking that upon herself. But I still think the question of whether or not Hild is capable of pulling the trigger on somebody is too important to off screen. So I kind of hope not. Did Sigurd ever tell Thorfinn that he will want to visit Vinland one day? I think he did. He said something about like about seeing him again. Let's go to it. Alright, I have to guess. I think it's chapter 179. Ah, wow, I went way too far ahead. Oops. It's 173. It's literally the next chapter. I'm a fool. It's the next chapter, isn't it? Yeah, you won't be my son. Alright, here we go. So, Sigurd comes back. He talks to Thorfinn. I love these chapters, by the way. Sailing West is so fun. And people hated it when it was coming out, but I loved it. It's no use. My father isn't the type to listen. Thanks. How good Scooter doing? So you're going to Vinland? Yeah, next spring. Go for it. I know you can do it. That's all he says. Okay. You know it. That is the last time we saw Sigurd. By the way, I mean, we do leave, like, literally the next chapter, but I love you, Siggy. Oh, my boy. Like you said in your review, I think it would have been interesting to see Hild's reaction to the shaman before switching back to Thorfinn. Yeah, I really, really do. I think it indicates to me that Hild is not really as important right now, which is kind of disappointing. Because I really thought that, when we were getting stuff like Hild threatening Ivar, Hild going to kill Miss Epique, I thought Hild was going to be like incredibly important, like borderline antagonist of the arc. But the arc is way too messy to have a single antagonist at this point. And that's for the best. Maybe we will see Sigurd once again if Thorfinn goes back to Iceland. True. I'm really hoping that Yukimura just does pure fan service in the epilogue. I want to just get a glimpse of people like Sigurd, like Snake, Garm, you know, Thorkel, of course. I feel like it would be nice to see some of these characters one more time, but I don't think Yukimura is the type of author to really concern himself with that. When people are gone, sometimes they're just kind of gone, and that's alright. You know, they're doing their own thing. But if he wants me to be happy, he will show me Snake. Ed Sigurd. If Hild were to live, they could reveal she killed those men in the epilogue. That'd be cool. That's not a bad idea. I also think, though, I don't see her getting out of Vinland without being put in the situation where she has to choose to kill someone or not. Because if you have a character whose entire purpose in the story for a while was the threat of killing someone who still hasn't killed someone this whole time, I feel like that's almost like a promise that whether or not she can do it and will do it, it needs to be answered at some point. I love this story. This is so great. Like, the stuff we were getting, this dialogue. It's so good. This arc is the best arc in the whole story, by far. Like, I do not think it has surpassed The Farm for me already. I think it's written even more sharply. It's so good. I truly, truly love this arc. If Einar can kill Hild, sure can. I really don't know. I think, if anything, the more interesting thing to see would be that Hild was kind of always She always thought she could do it, but she couldn't. I think that would be really, really interesting. But, because Hild has always been putting up the front that she can kill. So to have that front ultimately subverted would be kind of brilliant, in my opinion. But it can go either way. That was just kind of me headcanoning a little bit until we have answers. If Yukimura wanted us to be happy, he'd show Willibald. True. So true. You've mentioned it before, but didn't Hild aim for Thorfinn's head on the mountain before? I think she was definitely prepared to kill him. Here's the thing. When Hild chose not to kill Thorfinn, obviously, it wasn't actually her father's spirit that made her decide not to. It was her own will not to. And she has completely abstained from taking a life and has been pretty much non-lethal. She has definitely hurt people, but she has been non-lethal this whole time. Obviously, she doesn't want to be a murderer, because that would, like, especially during Baltic, because that would make her no better than Thorfinn. So she always has to be, you know, I guess, you know, a moral high ground over him. But, I'm not saying that Hild didn't think she could kill Thorfinn, and she was pretending she could. I genuinely think she believes she can. So I want to see her put in the position where she is confronted with kill or be killed. I'd like to see what she actually does there. Because, like, kill for revenge, kill to avenge her father, I feel like that's a bit different from kill or be killed yourself. Will she selflessly abstain like Thorfinn? Or would she decide that she should be able to live, that she deserves to live, and that she should take the life in exchange for being able to live? That's the kind of thing I want to see from her. I think Hild is a rational character based on her intelligence, so I think she would definitely kill if she felt she was in a pragmatic felt it was the most pragmatic solution. Her relationship to Thorfinn is making her question that. Yeah, I do think you're right. I think a Hild, especially Hild during Hunter and the Hunted, if she was attacked by some stranger, yeah, I think she would kill them. Probably would have. But I think the ultimate show of her arc would be that to show she never wanted to kill someone, and now she's in a place where I don't know if she'd really accept it. I don't know if she would pull the trigger to save herself or not at this point. So I want to see her put in that situation. I think every character needs to be put in an A&R situation going forward, eventually. Who knows? Maybe some of the men Hild shoot died days later. That's the thing. We kind of skip over that, and I think that would be a really great, tragic way to once again recontextualize the stuff we've gotten used to from Baltic Sea War, where like an arrow to the arm to disarm somebody was never a problem. But in reality, yeah, I can get infected, and if there's any arc that's gonna do that, it's the Vinland arc. Cause like, what do you even do then? Like a situation completely opposite of A&R, where she instead doesn't go through with it. I could really see that being the conclusion for her character. I really could. Because I think we are supposed to be in the mindset, like she is, believing that she is fully capable of doing this, even though she's never killed someone before. We're supposed to be in the mindset that she can confidently pull the trigger. Like she threatened to do with Ivar, like she threatened to do with Misekwe. But I really think she always planned to just threaten Ivar. I really think she never... Maybe she believed she could pull the trigger on him if he resisted or something, but I think she was always going to threaten him instead. Whether she knows it or not. Hild is definitely a character who's very kind of at war with herself and what she's capable of doing as the hunter, you know? The A&R incident. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the A&R incident. Okay. I think this was a very, very, very good after party. Lots of interesting stuff from everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing what of our predictions are right and wrong. But I think now is the time for me to end the stream. I need to get some water, probably eat something. But yeah, good after party. Thanks everyone who came by to chat. As always, you guys leave very, very good comments. I read every comment on every video. So I like to see what everyone's thinking. So it's cool to have a live back and forth. Okay, real quick before I end though, that's actually a really good point, Otorius. Would Yukimura want to do that to one of his only tough girls? That's a good point. Because he is already in a very weird spot when it comes to female empowerment. Hild really is the exception. Because Gudrid is strong in the way that a mother is strong, in a way that Yukimura talks about how he respects so much. But Hild is that like straight up warrior strong, you know, masculinity, traditionally masculine kind of strength. Even though she is that, she has to rely on her intelligence to have the crossbow she can reload because she's not strong enough to do it. You know, there's this weird implication that women have to be strong in the motherly way and can't be strong physically. Except, you know, Cordelia being the exception, but then you have the whole gender thing that is also a bit messy. So that's a good point. I could see him wanting to let Hild be strong and not hesitant, but at the same time, you know, the type of strong that Yukimura really respects is the Thorfinn kind of strong, not the, you know, Einar kind of strong or the Ivar kind of strong. So we'll see. But okay, now I am done. That was a good comment though. I couldn't just end without talking about that. So yeah, again, thank you everyone. I guess I'll talk to you all again when we get to the 217 pre-stream, assuming we have a chapter next month. I'm low-key expecting a break, to be honest, but we'll see. So, all right, thanks everyone. Bye bye.